All right, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Judah Goes First podcast. My name is Dalton Harper, I'm your host, and with me again today is the mighty Mac Proffitt.
You can get my ego going, man, if you keep saying mighty like that.
Mighty, man, mighty. Which last week, Roy was with me, and it was Talent versus Anointing, which was a really good episode. So I'm excited about this episode today. But if you're watching, I know some of you might be listening to the audio of the podcast, but if you're watching on YouTube, you realize we got a new setup. We got a new table.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the screen, man. And you can already tell by the screen what this episode is about, and you know by the title what this episode is about. But I'm loving this setup, man.
Yeah, man.
We got the arms, clamped to the table.
We're doing
bougie.
it, man. We made it.
Bougie.
We made it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this episode today. If you don't know what In the Green Room is, it's a vision, pretty much the vision of why I wanted to start a podcast. Why we wanted to start a podcast is because In the Green Room is pretty much the story of a person. And the backstory, what they've been through, what they've experienced, what the Lord has called them to, you know, the first time that they felt called to ministry, all those different things. Because there's, people in the congregation that are looking at the platform and seeing, pastors, worship leaders, and seeing them as mighty people, but not knowing the amount of brokenness and, the different things that they had to go through. But this is our first In the Green Room episode, and I am honored that the first In the Green Room episode is Mac's story.
Yeah, man. I'm honored as well. This is great.
I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped. So, with Mac, which you grew up in Wyoming County.
Yeah.
Yeah, Oceana area.
Oceana.
So, I want to specify for all of y'all watching or listening, it's Oceana.
Yeah, not Oceana.
It's not Oceana. Mm-hmm. If you say Oceana, my fist is going to come through that screen or that, whatever you're listening on.
I just want you to know the locals don't like it either.
So, they can't stand it.
So if you're from a neighboring county and you say Oceana, just know that you're being scowled at.
Yeah.
While you do it.
Yeah, and up here, which myself, I didn't grow up in Oceana. I grew up in Pineville.
Mm-hmm.
Pineville.
Mm-hmm.
Up here, they'll say Pineville.
No.
Ooh. That's Pineville. Pineville. But yeah, there's no oceans in Oceana, so it's not Oceana, it's Oceana.
That's right.
But with Mac, he grew up in Oceana, and your dad, which you mentioned, he pastored at one point, retired now.
Yeah. He is, yeah.
Yeah, so you went Logan County.
Logan County was the church I was from birth to 16 raised in, in Logan County. The same church that Pastor Josh references being saved at, that was the same exact church. Yeah, the same church. Orville Holiness Church. It's in a place called Rum Creek, West Virginia.
So, did you and Pastor went to church together?
We did until he moved to Morgantown, yes, in the 90s.
Cool. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that part.
We did.
Okay, cool.
Our parents they did worship, well, what we would consider worship. They did the music at the church together. Yeah. It was my dad and my aunt, which is Pastor Josh's mother, and we had another aunt that went there at the time, and they did the music. They had a killer band, man. Just totally underrated. If I can just geek out about music for a second, they were just underrated for their time, man. They all could have went pro if they wanted to. They just didn't want to. So they were a really good group of people. Most of them have gone on to be with Jesus, but it's man, they were awesome. I think about them all the time.
Yeah, there's people everywhere, especially in Wyoming County, that have a powerhouse of a voice, man. Mm-hmm. Can flat sing and nobody knows it. Nobody knows it. But with Wyoming County, the culture is very different in Wyoming County. As I had mentioned, that jobs in Wyoming County, you either get coal mines or medical field.
That's it.
That's it. Everything else is gas stations, or you got which, rest in peace, Pizza Mingo shut down, man.
Yeah. Moment of silence for Pizza Mingo.
Yeah, if you're watching, listening right now, Pizza Mingo was the best pizza on the face of the planet.
They still have Geno's, and there's Geno's everywhere, around West Virginia and the surrounding areas. But there was something about the Geno's in Oceana that was just a little bit different. But nothing pales in comparison to Pizza Mingo, man.
Oh my God. Nothing.
We're gonna sit here and talk about pizza all day, aren't
we? I'm already getting hungry sitting here listening. But I mean, the culture is very different in Wyoming County. I know Welch used to be huge, which that's McDowell County, neighboring county. But Welch used to be big in the coal mines, especially back in the day. So the culture is just like so different. And I really don't want to say this, but I'm gonna say it anyways. Wyoming County is what they write Wrong Turn about.
Yeah.
Like, those are the part of West Virginia that are the boonies, man.
That's the part, and not because it's, not because it's like that, but it's so deep away from everything and so far away from everything that people fear. If you're not a local, people fear to tread that far off of the interstate or things of that nature. So it's really one of the last undiscovered frontiers still to this day, is just that area, man. He had to go an hour to go to Walmart. Like, I'm so spoiled now living up here in the north that I can just go to Walmart whenever I want to. You had to plan your day around going to, if you needed to go to Walmart or anything. So it's a beautiful place. There's things that you can never take away from me that just will be associated with Wyoming County, with Oceana, with Logan County. That holds a special place in my heart. I know it does for you too. Just home's always going to be home. I like the way I live now. I like where I live now, but you can't compare anything to home.
No, and even up here in Fairmont, it's completely different than Wyoming County. This is a whole different state.
You wouldn't know it was the same state.
No,
not at all.
It's completely different. But I mean, not to go on, too many rabbit trails, but with growing up in a culture like that, was that easy growing up for you?
I would say yes, for the most part. I mean, all we knew was church and school. That's all I did. That's all I did. I went to school, and anytime the doors of the church were open, we went. And it was 1 hour one way for us to go to church. So my downtime was spent in the car. That's kind of where my love for music kind of came in, is because I always had either a Walkman or a portable CD player that I always had headphones on in the car.
Jeez.
I never talked to anybody.
You're shooting way back, man.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even have the anti-skip to begin with, so that's struggling. But that's where I really learned, what I know about my foundations in music, from whether it be gospel or something secular, or first time I heard the Beatles was in the back of the car going to church. Didn't know who they were, so somebody gave me a CD. Hey, you might like this. So I credit that downtime, that 1 hour there, 1 hour back, to a lot of why I fell in love with music. And it's church music, I fell in love with it first, but where my appetite grew for wanting to know more about it was really, man, the most precious time to me was in that car going to and from church all the time. Wow.
So I know you play like different instruments, but did you start on drums?
I did, yeah. I started playing drums at that church at the age of 3.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, at the age of 3. I'm still not tall to this day, but obviously then I really wasn't tall. I had to sit on our pastor now, Josh, who is my cousin, and I had to sit on his lap so he could work the pedals, and I did everything else.
That's awesome.
Because he and another guy was the drummers at our church.
Yeah.
And when I began to just keep rhythm and people notice, like, hey, let's just see what he's got.
Yeah.
And I played drums there until I could reach the pedals on his lap. So 3 years old, 30 years.
Wow.
30 years. Yeah. I've been playing drums.
Does that hurt to say 30 years?
It doesn't seem real. Because I don't feel like I'm old enough to say, oh, that was 30 years ago. But yeah, it's 30 years, man, since I started playing.
So that was the instrument that I started on, which a lot of people up here don't know that I play drums, because I lead worship on Sunday mornings, so I don't really jump on drums too much anymore. But that was the first instrument I started on, and I started playing when I was like five or six. And how I learned was I'd sit right beside the hi-hat, man. It was like, you know how drums are. They're loud, especially in small church, because you don't get electric drums. You get, those big old wonking white pearl acoustic drums. And watched Dad. Dad is an incredible drummer, and he played nonstop. And then eventually I got on my own kit. So with your instrument playing, though, like, what inspired you to start playing, like actually picking up an instrument? I know music it inspires everybody, but was there someone or was there something that kind of inspired that?
That's a good question, man. I was an only child, so I don't have any brothers or sisters. My parents had their TV shows they like to watch in the evenings, and I'm not really, as a 3-year-old kid, not into Rescue 911 or stuff like that. I bet they don't even think I remember that, but yeah, they watched Rescue 911 and things of that nature. Now I'd love to watch it, but that's beside the point. No, just in the downtime when normal kids would be playing with toys and all those things, which I did, I grabbed 2 pencils. I always sat at the kitchen table and I pecked on the chair. Yeah. Played the song in my head, just pecked on the chair. And I think that's how they noticed that I actually had rhythm. I was making a metronome with my mouth, to a song, and I would play along with it. So I just, that to me was playing like with a toy, or, and it's going to sound weird. I had, the original Nintendo set up and all this. So I had everything. I was very blessed as a child to have, stuff spoil me. But it was, in my downtime, I would take 2 pencils. And, a lot of drummers would say it was pots and pans. I didn't venture off into that. To my knowledge, my parents can correct me. Yeah. But it was pencils on chairs.
Yeah. Yeah, mine was pencils on pots.
Yeah.
Now, my brother, Timmy, dude, out of the blue, man, picked up 2 pencils, and it was a hymn book. It wasn't even a book or like a pots. He just grabbed a hymn book, and that was his thing all the time, 24/7, which he's incredible now, too. So
yeah, I had a chair. Yeah. And this kind of goes into the music side of it. I had a child's chair that was made out of plastic, but it was hollow on the inside. Oh. So the seat of the chair and where the legs came into the chair made different pitches. Yeah. So I began to discover tone. Yeah. With that. Oh gosh, that's awesome. So I would beat as a snare on the actual seat part, and where the legs came in would be toms, because they didn't sound like that. Yeah. I actually, in my mind, could hear a drum kit out of those different tones that hollow plastic would give.
Yeah. So, my family was in ministry, man, as a whole, like the whole family being in ministry together for years. But growing up, I know personally, like in the music that I was in, I was playing music just because I was playing music. Like, it was just, something fun for me to do. But there was a moment, I think I was around 9, because I was filled with the Spirit when I was 9. And there was a moment around that same area where it shifted for me to being, I'm just playing an instrument, to I could use this for the Lord. Yeah. So for you, at what point do you feel like the Lord really shifted you into being like, this could be full-time ministry for me?
Well, down there, it's not a thing. It don't exist. No. So I didn't know there was a such thing as full-time ministry until I got closer to adulthood. Yeah. And, I share the same pretty much story with you. Everything for me spiritually happened at 10. I remember it well because it's Y2K was happening. and we were at a watch service. We talked about a watch service on a previous
we did
on a previous episode, and we were at a watch service, and it was a candlelight service. I don't know if that was because people thought there was fear of the grid being shut down, like everybody else said, but we had a candlelight watch night.
That's interesting.
No lights were on, just candles.
Okay.
That's the night I was saved. That's and I was baptized. I can't remember if it was the same day or the following day, but I was baptized in the creek right down the road from the church very soon.
Wow.
And I was filled with the Spirit that same year. So initially.
Yours was all back to back.
Yeah, it was all at the age of 10.
That's awesome.
All at the age of 10. I would have turned 11 in May of 2001. So yeah, it was at the age of 10. But as far as full-time ministry, I didn't know it existed, man. It just, I saw televangelism.
Yeah.
Things of that nature. I knew those dudes were getting paid, but as far as doing what I did and being paid for it, I thought you had to be at Nashville or something like that. So as far as doing it for ministry, I didn't realize that was a thing until I was about 16 or 17.
Yeah.
When I started to branch out a little bit and know other people's stories a little bit. But yeah, it was never really a thing I considered I was going to be in until I was close to being an adult.
Yeah. With your full-time ministry, because the Lord's actually opened a lot of pretty big doors for you, especially in music.
Mm-hmm.
So how far into when you felt that shift that the Lord started really opening doors for you to dig into that? And I want you to share too, like what those doors were.
Yeah.
All that.
When football ended when I was 18, and I realized that was, I wasn't good enough to go to college and play. I could have probably walked on, but I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
I had pretty much got all my credits to graduate. I was scooting through that last part of my senior year. I actually had a opportunity to go to a youth center that was in OCN at the time called The Spot. And the England family was the, I'd say, owners or caretakers of The Spot.
Yeah.
It was in an old Dollar General right across from the grade school. And they specialized in, getting you to have that relationship with God, that face down on the floor.
Yeah.
I never experienced that.
Yeah.
They had a drummer who I hold very dear to my heart, and if he ever hears this, I hope he knows I think about him all the time. His name was Jared Brunny. So the Englands and the Brunny family were really still are good friends to this day, and Jared Brunny was a coal miner, so he couldn't come and play all the time. They needed a drummer. There was a problem with that. I didn't know how to play worship music. My introduction to worship music was, the original Hillsong "Shout to the Lord" when Darlene Check was there. That was when I heard worship music for the first time. I never attempted to play it.
Oh my gosh, I feel so young right now. You know what my first worship song was? "Reckless Love."
Oh, Dalton.
Yeah.
That was yesterday.
Yeah, I know. That's how deep into Southern Gospel I was.
Dude,
man.
I remember it from its inception. So they're obviously doing songs at the time Jesus Culture just came out, and they're doing How He Loves and things of that nature. That's when I got into to worship music, and I remember going to a rehearsal to set in, and I was still playing like Southern Gospel, and I remember Tyler England, who is just an utter genius, was the band director, and he looked at me and said, "You can't play it like that." And I was like, "That's the only way I know how to play." He says, just be free.
Mm-hmm.
Do everything that you think you can't do in church, do it now.
Oh, wow.
And, buddy, that changed everything.
Yeah.
That changed everything to where I was not the drummer there, but I was one of the guys, and that's really where I got my foot in the door. And, that group of guys that was there, Tyler, who is with Damon Thompson now, who is his music director, used to be the music director at the Ramp.
Yeah.
CJ England, who is in Kentucky somewhere, and I'm sorry, buddy, I just don't know where you are, but I know you're in Kentucky. He's a worship leader. Dustin Brunny played bass. He's still home, but they're doing big things at the Appalachian Prayer Center.
Yes.
they have a name for their church too, and I'm sorry for that I don't know it, but the prayer center. And all those guys. Kyle Alfrey was one of my best friends on the planet, man, and he's still at the ramp playing guitar. And I don't know his title, so I apologize for not giving him his flowers, but he's one of the most remarkable guitar players I've ever seen in my life. Those guys were a good crew to be around. And I don't think any of us knew where anything would go. But that all disbanded when Tyler actually got his opportunity to go to the ramp and be with Karen Wheaton there in Alabama. The spot kind of sat there. I don't want to ramble on, man, but this is a very in-depth story. The spot kind of sat there and actually was at one time going to be purchased by Eddie James. Eddie had first started coming to Pineville and doing services in Pineville. And he heard about the spot and was going to actually use that as a center to teach worship for his people. That because he specializes at bringing in addicts or recovering from homosexuality, whatever your stronghold may be. He would bring those. That was his whole team. Was recovering from something. He was going to take them there, his younger people, and station them in West Virginia until they were ready for ministry on the road.
Wow.
And a few of us were still there. He kept there. This is still volunteer, by the way. I'm in college at this time. I'm pursuing a nursing degree. I'm doing all those things. And, I got to meet some cool guys there that are, still doing, we were in Nashville when I ran into one of those guys, Johnny B. We ran into Johnny B. He was one of the guys that Eddie sent to the spot to kind of curate that.
Is awesome.
And he's in Florida now doing a thing. So that was cool. Seeing where all of us, ended up was great. But that all, fast forward a little bit, being with Eddie a little bit, never really traveled with Eddie. I think that's a misconception that people hear when I say, I was under Eddie's umbrella for a while, but I never really was on that traveling team. I had the honor to play for him quite a few times, but not, his musicians couldn't be touched. We're talking Berkeley graduates and things. So I was a minnow in a big pond. But I got to meet a guy named Jared Pugh, and he was one of Eddie's lead vocalists. One of the only white dudes on the stage. He had some pipes. And got to talking and realized he was from West Virginia too. He was from Raleigh County, neighboring county of Wyoming County. We had lived that close to each other that whole time and never knew it. And me and Dustin and Kyle traveled with Jared for years when Jared got off the road with Eddie. So we were kind of still under Eddie's umbrella at that time too. We did a lot of conferences with Eddie, but never really fully. And man, that time I even spoke about it last night here in class. That time with Jared was where I really learned that you got to have that relationship with God. Everything I learned at the spot about being on your face and laying before the Lord and submitting was amplified with Jared. That's where the services where you got to see people being healed, limbs growing, things of that. And that was my experience with that. And I was like, holy cow, it was so quick. And Jared was really good to me. And Jared even put me in a room in his house. I had a bedroom in his house, because he valued me that much. He was really the first guy that didn't pursue me after my talent. He pursued me for just who I was. And I'll never forget him or could thank him enough for what he's done. And he's actually came here to Covenant a couple of times and did worship, and it was so awesome to do all that stuff with him. And I know his heart for God and all that, but I traveled with Jared for years. But I don't even know where I am right now with my story, but that's probably my first taste of full time, because I want you to ask the questions to me. I don't want to ramble, but that was Jared took care of me, and that's where we met some pretty big people.
Yeah,
but that's where I met Lyndall Cooley from the Brownsville Revival.
Yeah.
Dude, I still get goosebumps thinking. I'm not even kidding. I still get goosebumps thinking about that. We were in Winterville, North Carolina, which is on the eastern coast of North Carolina, and we're playing a service. And oh, by the way, Lyndall Cooley's here tonight.
Oh my gosh.
So we do our set and we do worship and everything, and he's gonna come up and just lead from his keyboard.
Oh, and I bet your heart sunk.
Well, he said, "How about that band come back up?"
Oh no, good Lord.
Dude, I got to play We Will Ride with the guy. I still geek out about that.
Listen, not to have a youngin' moment, but my mom is freaking out right now listening to this, and I know it. She used to sing that song all the time. We Will Ride, man, with Lindell himself, man.
With the guy. And
oh my gosh.
Lindell, I mentioned earlier my first, big thing with worship music was Hillsong.
Yeah.
But I encountered the Brownsville Revival, sooner than that. But I didn't consider it worship music because he had such a timely feel with his music, the way he conducted his band.
Yeah.
And, I got to really hear from his perspective about the Brownsville Revival, which was... Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I could never do that to this day. Like what they did, people just refusing to leave and all that stuff. But
dude, side note, we need to cover topics like these revivals, man, because there's a few clips. I don't want to get on this and get on a rabbit trail, but there's a clip of an intercessor at Brownsville Revival that was in the back of the church, and she would stay back there every night and she would intercede, and they were let her give her short testimony and stuff in the service, and the Lord hit her. And I'm trying to remember exactly what she said, but she was shaking, man, like uncontrollably, and she said something along the lines of like, she said he's in a hurry. Mm-hmm. Dude, as soon as she said he's in a hurry, man, she fell on the floor, and that was the altar call. They didn't preach or anything, man. They were like, and thousands of people, man, rushed the altar. So we need to cover like a topic of like, dude, Azusa Street,
Dude, I heard about Azusa Street for my entire life, but hearing about Brownsville was... And I mentioned CJ earlier, Tyler England's brother.
Yeah.
And, man, if they don't listen to this, it's going to sound like I'm name dropping, so I hope they do. He actually got to be the worship leader at Brownsville for an extended period of time.
Dude, what?
So his solo album was released from Brownsville. So it was... So it was like I said, man, I don't know what it was in the water in the county at that time, but we were all just like living life and doing the ministry, man, like I never thought that I ever would. But Lyndall Cooley, other people got to play with Eddie quite a few times. Got to enjoy, never played at the ramp, but got to enjoy going to the ramp, being on stage at the ramp, and participating as a spectator worshiper for a lot of those things. Ran into Lyndall again, at those, and met his bass player, who was the bass player on the Brownsville albums.
That's awesome.
Who was missing fingers, which was remarkable that he could play bass. Yeah, he didn't have all of his fingers. He was such a joy to be around, man. Such a good guy.
Oh my god!
But just all the things that those guys overcome to, and they didn't know what they were doing at the time.
Yeah.
Just like I'm sitting here geeking out about my story, like we didn't know when we were in that little Dollar General, like we were going to end up in the places we end up.
Yeah.
They felt the same way about the Brownsville Revival. That was just our church, man. What are you talking about? That's where God chose to have revival.
Yeah.
So, man, it was, I'm sure I'm missing some stories, but, those experiences, man, you can't take them away.
So with those larger ministries, how different was that from small church?
night and day.
Yeah. Yes. I can only imagine.
Yeah, it's night and day. There were some things where I was like, this has got to be illegal, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is not...
Yeah.
You can't do that. One of the big things is, growing up in Pentecost, growing up in holiness, they like to be rowdy, Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that, No. And the old adage is, if you didn't shout, you didn't have a good service. And though that's not 100% true, it kind of was. And knowing that, if you go to a place that's much bigger and, people get excited and people shout, that's not what it's all about.
Yeah.
Took me a while, man. It really did. It took me a very long time to realize that that's just not, God really does enjoy the dance, and he gets glory from the dance, and he gets glory from when you submit. But sometimes when you submit, they don't look like that. It just looks like you laying before the Lord, or you not having words to say. It's okay to worship and not have anything to say. And just being able to be forefront in all those situations really showed me, hey, man, there's more to this.
Yeah.
There's more to this than what I've experienced. I wouldn't take anything away from what I was raised in, because it's still my foundation to this day. But I learned that there's so much more. There's so much more to this walk with God, and especially the giftings that he's giving me. He's given people like us that we can't explain how or why he does the things he does all the time. But God just desires to move, and he desires for you to be obedient. But it was 100% different.
Yeah.
You can't put them in the same bracket.
No.
They're two different teams. It's JV and it's varsity.
Yes.
They have no business being in the same conversation.
Yeah.
Because what works for us here in a 500-seat auditorium, which is not big, but compared to where we came from, it's huge.
It's huge.
So what works here won't work there.
Yeah.
And what works there don't work here. It's not the same. Even for the churches down the street, it's not the same. What works here at Covenant can't work for those people. So it's just knowing your atmosphere, knowing your region, knowing your demographic, and just being able to lean into that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So I wrote this question down just because I need to know. What is the weirdest thing that you've ever saw or experienced in church? I'm really excited for this answer.
There's been things from my circle that I have maybe not laid physical eyes on.
Yeah.
But, being around ramp people, you see a lot of stuff.
Really?
Being around ramp people, you see a lot of stuff. Crazy things to the good and crazy things to the bad. We can be here all day.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of miracles, man. I've seen people raising, wheelchairs up when they came in, rolling in a wheelchair. They left with it packed up.
Yep.
I've been a part of some Pino services, some Rick Pino services, and this guy's on a whole new level with the weird, but I love every minute of it. I was not there for the sock thing.
Tag on it, man.
I wasn't there for the sock thing.
Sock.
Yeah, but I've even heard of some of my fellow guys when they traveled with Eddie, going to churches where they worship with real swords. These churches exist, and I'm not knocking it. Hey, man,
it's better than snakes, I guess.
Do what you got to do. You know what I mean? But I feel like the weirdest thing for me was actually when I truly experienced a move of God that I still can't explain. So we're at the ramp, and they're having their winter ramp conference in Chattanooga. One of the last years they did it in Chattanooga. And we were invited to come because they needed a bass player, and I was actually hanging out with Dustin Brunny, who I mentioned earlier at the time. We were in Alabama. We were playing for a youth camp out there in some sketchy Alabama.
Yeah.
I won't get into that, but there were some certain members of certain, clans.
I got you.
Okay. That were very close, so it was that was weird in itself. But I was we left there and we drove up to Chattanooga, and I remember being in a 2:00 service, and I remember going on the edge of the stage, not in camera shot, but just being on the edge of the stage and enjoying the 2:00 service. And they usually did a lot of soaking in their midday service. So Jason Upton happened to be the dude this day.
Oh my gosh, I love Jason, man.
And Jason Upton didn't bring a band. Well, I take that back. He did bring a band. He had a drummer and like a guitar player, and it was him.
Yeah.
Okay. He led us into a place where I remember doing what I normally do, laying down and just, receiving what I can from the Lord and, giving him worship. And I remember getting up like an hour or so later. I don't remember the in-between.
Oh, wow.
I wasn't asleep.
Yeah. No,
but I don't remember the in-between. Yeah. It was that peaceful. I still to this day can't explain it. I remember looking over and Dustin was laying beside him, and he got up and he was like, "What happened?" Because the same thing happened to him. And they got a service. The night service is where everybody tunes in online and to watch, and they're like, "We got to reset. We got to get ready to do another." I'm like, "Oh man, come on!" Like I'm just like I can't walk.
Oh my gosh!
Like what are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
So for the longest time I was like, dude, don't tell people that story because you fell asleep. I didn't. I did not fall asleep because I have other people that just experienced the same thing. I remember saying, holy cow, man, what just happened?
Yeah. Wow.
Probably not the answer you're expecting. You wanted something probably really off the wall.
That's perfect.
That, to me, man, that's the first time I could really experience something and be like, holy cow, I can just go into that and be with the Lord and not remember any of it. It's like we just went, like me and the Lord went on vacation together, and I just was struck of all memory of it.
Yeah.
It was just unbelievable.
Wow. That's incredible. So with this, the Lord has opened like a lot of doors for you. Obviously, there's been a lot of favor, a lot of blessing, and I think everybody can tell, especially because we got a lot of feedback on the Cultivating Worship episode.
Yeah,
a lot of feedback. So I think people realize that you carry an anointing that's not really, too much seen, which is not a bad thing. But dude, when you play anointed, the way you lead the band is anointed, but we've heard our whole lives anointing comes with a cost.
Yeah.
And I live by it, man. I've been there, done it. You can't prove me otherwise.
Yeah.
It's one thing to be told something, but it's another thing to experience it. So what would you say is the hardest lesson that you had to learn?
Yeah, it's kind of what I mentioned last night in class. It was the hardest lesson was hungering after these experiences instead of hungering after God. And that hit after I left Jared Pugh's ministry, and I went to Kentucky and went to a church there, and it was, the people were very sweet and very nice, and they're still doing their thing, and was very plugged in, and that's where I began to learn how to direct a band, be a music director. But I was chasing after more of those experiences. I was chasing after more and more and more of the wrong thing. I was chasing after the calling.
Yeah.
And I forgot to chase after Jesus. And I found myself in some shambles, and that's when I discussed last night. I mentioned the woman at the well. When Jesus told that woman from Samaria that if you drink of the water I give you, you'll never thirst again. I was thirsty all the time. I really was.
Yeah.
I felt very out of place. I was out of the will of God because I was chasing more of those moments. I had felt that I needed to be rooted somewhere, and that part was right.
Yeah.
But I took it upon myself to make those opportunities happen.
Yeah.
Never prayed about it, just went and did it. And the hardest lesson in all that, man, is you can have all these experiences, you can have all these stories like I mentioned, and yeah, that's great and that's grand, and that doesn't change me as a person. But I can tell you right now, when you don't have God,
that
He's silent, that's a wake-up call. When dude, that's the thing. I had a job, I had money, I wasn't poor, I wasn't going without food, I was stripped of all happiness.
Wow.
Stripped of 100% happiness. And that's when I really discovered, they tell you that, money isn't everything, fame isn't everything. I never was famous. I never was rich. But I had some notoriety.
Yeah.
I knew some people. I wasn't going without food. And I still wasn't happy. And the hardest lesson was, you're going to seek after me or I'll take all this away. You can't divert your vision away from me and expect to continue to have all these blessings and all these opportunities that I've given you in the past just because you got a little bit of notoriety under your belt.
Wow.
That's just not going to happen. God will never take your gift away. In my opinion, I don't believe that. They're just given from God, but I can promise you this. He will take opportunities away.
Yeah.
And what good are you if you're there sitting on your gift?
Oh, wow, that's good.
And, I remember leaving Kentucky and coming back to West Virginia and licking my wounds and saying, well, I guess I just had my run. That was it. But I really began to seek the Lord again and again and again and get deeper and still hone in my craft and still use my gifting, but just not to the capacity I was. Leaving places like that, we geeked out over Lindell and, being in a room with him and playing music behind him, and then going back to, at the time I was running sound for my dad's quartet.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And traveling around with them and running sound, and the only chance I got to make music was if I made soundtracks or made an album for them and helped them out. That was it. There was no opportunity, man. It was gone. And if I hadn't have taken that time and gotten closer to God and rekindled that relationship, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Because that was the next step, was here at Covenant.
Yeah.
So that was the hardest lesson, man. I lost focus. I lost my vision to where I should be, and woke up one day and it was gone. And it's my fault. It's nobody in Kentucky's fault. It's nobody over here's fault. It's 100% my fault for being disobedient.
Yeah.
And that's where disobedience gets you.
Wow. Dude, we're probably going to have to end up doing a part 2 to this, man. I keep talking all day. 2 more questions, then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
If you could have a conversation with your younger self, what would you tell him?
Be patient. Be patient.
Okay. Patience.
Trust in God that He has a plan for you.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing to actually trust God for, because God's time frame is just not yours.
Yeah.
And we say that all the time. We act like we believe it, but we get all sore and bent out of shape when it doesn't happen when we want it to happen. That's case in point why I got in trouble. God, I'm on such a roll. I'm taking this opportunity.
Yeah.
And I'm going. Well, I didn't ask him. I told him what I was doing.
Yeah.
Be patient and wait on the voice of the Lord. It's okay to go back to your roots. It's okay to be humbled for a while. All that stuff is okay. There's a bigger plan for it. It's going to mold you into a better person. It's going to mold you into a better ministry leader.
Yeah.
It's 100% molded me to be the leader that I am here at Covenant, to appreciate my band, to appreciate my worship team and the talents they have. And they might have had the same, opportunities that I had, and they might not, but they still just love what they do. And just reassuring them that, be patient, and, God has a plan for your life, and God has you right where He wants you at this given time in this season.
Yeah.
I didn't like the word season. I didn't like, season means it's going to end. I didn't want to hear that.
Yeah.
This is good for a season.
Yeah.
My dad would tell me that. My mom would tell me that. People around me, this is good for a season, but there's going to come a time. I didn't want to hear that. The word season means there's an end to it. And then there's another season. And then there's another season. It's not continuous. Yeah. And I didn't like hearing that. And I took it upon myself to make my own opportunities. And I tremendously failed the Lord and set myself back. So be patient. Trust in what he wants to do in your life, and you'll be fine. That's it. It's that easy. It's just we don't like to wait. Nobody likes to wait.
Yeah.
Nobody likes to just wait upon the Lord and let him direct your path. The children of Israel didn't like to wait. To the point where God got so fed up with their complaints, he's like, well, we'll just wait until another generation comes around.
Yeah. Wow.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to bring you out of captivity, and this is what you're going to do 2 weeks later? You're just going to get bent out of shape that I haven't taken you to the promised land? We're just going to wander around here for 40 years until everybody's gone.
Wow.
And then I'll give it to your kids. You know, opportunity. If they would have been patient, the book of Exodus would have been way shorter. If they would have just trusted in what the servant of the Lord had to say, it would have been way different.
Yeah.
But they didn't. And it's the same with Christians today. We're not patient with the Lord.
No.
It's got to happen right now.
Yeah. That's powerful. All right, last question. If a story from your life was in the Bible, what story would you want it to be, and what would be the meaning?
Ooh.
Dude, that's a hard one.
I've always connected with Elijah. And, you know, a lot of people say David and all those things because David was not perfect, but he was the apple of God's eye. And yeah, that's nice. That's wonderful. I've always connected with Elijah because of one moment in his ministry where he was just, it kind of paradoxes what I just talked about. He was on top of the world. You know, he was the voice of God in that area.
Yeah.
And then Jezebel happened.
Oh, yeah.
And it always puzzled me that somebody like Elijah, who had spoken with such authority and said, no, this is what God said, you're going to deal with it.
Yeah.
Or, you know, these people have to be slain because this is what God said. And a queen rises up and he retreats.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The Bible says he ran into a cave. He stuck his head between his knees and said, why are you going to kill me now, God?
Dude, and even with that, not to cut you off, but even with that, he had just, when Jezebel rose and sent the letter, you know, by this time tomorrow, I will kill you. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
But he had just got done, like, calling fire
He
from
called
heaven
fire from heaven.
and slew, like, 800 prophets. Like, 800 prophets. And then one woman stands up and is like, hey, I'm going to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
And the dude is like, I'm going to go find a cave. He runs, man. It's crazy.
Through God, he killed every prophet that her God had.
Yeah.
And still feared that woman.
Oh, that's nuts.
That goes to show that no matter how much that you go through your ministry and you are on just fire for God, that one setback where the enemy rears his head is going to just derail all of that if you allow it to.
Wow. Yeah.
Now, we look at it and say Elijah just should have laughed at that, crumpled up the letter, and moved on.
Yeah.
Because he's protected, God protected him this whole time. Why would he stop now? But he retreated.
Yeah.
To a cave and said, why are you going to kill me now? You know, kind of like, you know, I've done all this stuff for you.
Yeah.
Kind of like what Jesus said would happen at the judgment seat.
Yep.
Haven't I cast demons out in your name? Haven't I done this? Haven't I done this? Elijah had that moment in that cave. And God still showed mercy upon him and fed him through the birds of the air and gave him water by the brook. But my favorite part was God said, what are you doing here? And he told him to get up and turn around. So what we call turning around, if you do like a backwards definition of that, is repent.
Oh, wow.
Get up and repent and go back and do what I told you to do.
Yeah.
You're just having a low moment, dude. That's it. And that floored me because there are still times in my life where I'm like, I don't know why you're still using me. There's days I wake up and I feel washed up. ministry can be so mundane and so monotonous because you're doing the same thing and the same thing, but it's kind of your fault for not growing.
Yeah.
So if I ever get to that point, what am I doing to not grow with the Lord or grow in the ministry? But sometimes you just got to get up, repent. I'm sorry, God. I'll go back and do what you told me to do. I've had my pity party. You're going to have pity parties. You're going to have down times. You're going to have those moments where you're like, God ain't done a thing for me, and you know he has.
Yeah.
God understands that. He's not going to be vengeful with you because you have that moment. He created you, and he knows how sassy you can be. He knows how stubborn you can be, and he has compassion on that. He knew that Elijah in that moment before it even happened was going to be stubborn, and he was going to say, well, this is it. This is how I die.
Yeah.
Well, no, dude, just get up. What are you doing here? Get up, turn around, go back, kill that woman.
Yeah.
You know, go back and be my voice.
Yeah.
Show her who the real true God is. You already showed her prophets. Why can't you show her? You know? We all know that it all ended up well and good.
Yeah.
You know, Jezebel does end up dying. Elijah continues on doing his work. He equips somebody else to follow in his footsteps, and he's so close to God that he didn't die. He was taken away. That's a short list of people in the Bible that was just, listen, it doesn't matter what you do, how messed up your life can be. God still values it.
Wow.
As I mentioned David earlier. David was just the biggest mess up that ever walked. But God valued him so much.
Yeah.
Enough to say, you're the apple of my eye. This guy knows my heart.
That's good.
Like, God created you. You're not going to say anything that's going to surprise him.
Yeah.
There's going to be days where you're going to wake up and be like, I just really don't like God today. He knows that's happening. It's a kid with a parent. It's, you know, you chastise that child. Well, I hate you. No, you don't. You're just letting your emotions speak.
Yeah.
Sometimes our emotions get in the way, but I correlate probably with Elijah more than any other story. And, you know, as far as the meaning is concerned, with any story, you're exactly who God wants to use. Because you're messed up.
That.
You're messed up.
Yeah.
You're who he wants to use. There is no preacher that preaches the true gospel that isn't messed up. That doesn't have a past, that doesn't have a story, that does not have demons that still haunt them to this day. There's things that went on in my life recently that just traumatized me.
Yeah.
To a point where I couldn't seek after God, and God understood that. And he allowed me to go through that path to better health, better mental health.
That's good.
Better everything.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to show me that he still had me in the palm of his hand.
Yeah.
There is nobody in the Bible that hasn't went through that.
Yeah.
Research it and look. Job, David, Elijah, they all had those low moments where they should have just been like, well, this is it.
Wow.
But in the end, God revealed himself again in a new way, just like he does to each and every one of us. So the meaning of that is, even for me or for anybody that's listening or watching or what have you, you're exactly who God wants to use.
That's good.
He don't need a cookie cutter Christian. He has no interest in a cookie cutter Christian. He wants you to live and strive for holiness. He wants you to live and strive to do the right thing.
Yeah.
But your mess ups and your screw ups and your flaws are what brings him the most glory anyway. So why would you try to change that about yourself? If you did, you couldn't overcome by your testimony. You can't overcome anything with God, take this hurt and this pain away. You can't ever forget about. Why would you do that? Because one day you're going to stand up and you're going to tell that testimony, and there's going to be somebody break down in the room because they're going through that exact same thing, and they need to hear that hope.
Yeah. Wow.
You can't take that away from other people. You can't take that away from you. So why would you even try?
Jeez, man. Just go ahead and flip the table, you know, one of those things. Good Lord, man. That's good. That's good. Mac, dude, what a story. What a story, man. So we're going to be doing a lot of more like in the green room episodes in the future. I'm not going to tell y'all what episode this is on or who it's going to be, but I will say that there is an episode that is scheduled. I think it's in March of In the Green Room with someone who dealt with severe witchcraft. I mean, like out of body experiences, like saw, talk to demons, like a full-blown, witchcraft. Like it's nuts. So I'm not going to tell y'all what episode that's on, so you'll have to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah, you
and
gotta
who
follow.
it was.
Yeah.
I will say it is somebody that goes to this church, and you won't ever guess who it's going to be. Unless you already know their story.
He's the best dude.
Oh, he's amazing. He's amazing. But it's going to be a good episode. Just keep up with the episodes in the future. I think next week it's you and your wife.
Is that right?
I think it's next week.
We'll bring old Chelsea in on the thing. Huh?
Yeah, all right. It's going to be good. So thank you guys for watching. It's been awesome. We just appreciate all of you for tuning in, listening, watching, doing all that. Don't forget to share it with your friends and family. We want to get this out. We want to branch it a little bit more so that people can get to know us and so that they can be ministered to in different ways also. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you on another episode of the Judah Goes First podcast. Thanks, guys.